and welcome to the Bigfoot Roundtable. Joe's sharing your Vegemite with you tonight.
Ew.
All right. So, Buckwasp Booty Master, how you doing tonight?
Aces, like I said, I'm trying to keep in theme with the loving mood we're in tonight for Valentine's.
Yeah.
The love boat.
So, how are you tonight, Nikki?
I am good. Good. Staying busy.
All right, cool. Yeah, and Joe, how's things down in Texas?
Good. I just got one thing to say. This is for Toby Keith. Rest in peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rest in peace.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Absolutely.
Apollo Creed.
Yeah. Oh, did he pass away too?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I
Oh,
missed
yeah.
that.
I forgot.
Oh,
We're losing some greats.
yep.
Yikes.
We'll talk about that on the next podcast.
Yeah, there we go.
I might not make it to the next podcast.
Okay.
Well, I'm not great, so.
Let's watch your ticker.
Yeah, that's right. All right, folks. So tonight we're talking about Bigfoot love
Ooh.
and romance. One of the things, this is in honor of Valentine's Day coming up, but I've actually had a few people tell me Bigfoot stories in my life. One of them was a lady who said she'd been having sex with Bigfoot for 5 years. So,
Wow.
yep.
You know what they say, once you go Squatch.
Yeah.
I don't know what rhymes with Squatch. Help me out, Nikki. Once you go Squatch, you never go. The only thing I can think of is crotch, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. And so I want to say hi to everybody in the chat.
Hi,
Looks
Sharon.
like all
Both
the usual suspects. Yeah. Oh,
Sharon guys, Sharon from Belgium.
there we go.
And Octopus with no friends. He's got friends here.
Mhm.
Yep. Absolutely.
Pat. Hi, Pat. Jay Fritz.
We're streaming through 2 different places today.
We are.
So
Yeah.
you can find it on my channel and find it on Squatch America.
There we go. Yep. So first of all, I want to say we are not talking about Bigfoot porn tonight, actually.
Boom, there goes the numbers. No.
That is you, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did they go?
Can we just talk about these giant nipples that are happening here on this footage?
Yeah, I know.
It's really distracting seeing those huge
Yeah.
gravity-fed nipples. What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
This show's falling apart early.
My goodness.
That's
Yeah.
good.
So yeah.
Unnecessary censor bar. I love it.
Yeah, that's it. And that's why Bigfoot stays away from us freaks. Yeah. All right. No, actually, we want to talk about Bigfoot families tonight and how little Bigfoot's come about.
Okay.
Interesting.
Thinking about
Okay.
yes. So I throw this stuff at these guys. So they had no idea what we're actually talking about tonight. So what I want to talk about is how big is Bigfoot families, do you think? How often do they reproduce? Something to think about. And how big of family groups do they hang out in?
Well,
So
I don't
Go
think
ahead,
they like we do every 9 months or so. I think it's longer than that. I just think of every 9 months there'd be millions of them.
I don't know the answer to your question. I can talk a little bit about witnesses talking about Sasquatch. This is such a ridiculous thing to talk about Sasquatch sex, right? But in order to have a family group, obviously they're going to have to do the deed. And one of the things that was told to me early on when I was investigating a little town of Vida, Oregon, was there was this gal, I might have mentioned this before, but her name was Mary, and she was having activity again, and she was so freaked out that they had come back up the McKenzie. Now she had daughters. And I said, well, what's so tragic about this? You know, they want to sit outside. And she goes, well, you know, I saw one masturbating as a kid, and while it was watching me down on the beach, and you know, she was like reliving this moment of seeing this, you know, for her a predator watching her doing something like that. So you can't get away from it. Like the Native Americans talked about openly about women being taken by these beings, right? So it would stand to reason that, and some of them returned. So it's interesting to think about that it's not a thing. I mean, have you guys ever talked to witnesses that said, you said something as much, Scott, that you would talk to a witness that said she had a loving moment with a Bigfoot? I've talked to people that said that they've had the urge to be with the voice that they heard out in the woods in an uncomfortable way. Like they wanted to be with this voice. So what is that?
Yeah. Do you know what? I did have a lady tell me that she had been with a Bigfoot. But there was another lady who told me a story once that it really was intriguing the way she put it. She goes, we had the way she described it is she had a big field behind her house that backed up against a forest, and she lived up in the trees or up in the mountains. And she was on her back porch, and she saw this Bigfoot walk out of the forest and sit down in the field and just sit and stare at her. And so she said, I just sat there and just looked at him. And then she said, it was kind of interesting. She looked at me, she goes, is it strange that I felt really attracted to him?
Yeah.
And I'm like, huh. You know, that's
I interviewed a gal up here in the Sacramento Mountains who saw Bigfoot run across the road from her, and she was super detailed about describing how his back and his butt and legs looked as it ran by. And
Yeah.
she made it quite clear that this guy, this Sasquatch, had like a Adonis body, a perfect body as it ran across her. Of course, it was hairy, but she said she could, tell all the muscle parts. So,
Even Rhonda Moorhead, right? Ron Moorhead's daughter retells of her encounter that she had down at where she would pick her dad up at the base camp. And she had an encounter where she saw one run behind a tree, and on the other side of the tree, it came out as a white wolf. But before it did its amazing act of shape-shifting, she said that it actually was posing for her as it was running so she could see its full musculature, taking its time to kind of like lure her in as this giant alpha male, like, here's what you could have, you know? And they had a thing for Rhonda. Like, she believes that fully, that there was more action when there were females at camp. In fact, I would go out with a guy named Chris Manier, who was part of the BFRO, lives out near Triangle Lake, Oregon. And he would take shock rags and spray them with perfume and tie them to his antenna to lure them up to the mountains. So this is a thing, right? Like, they're into the ladies. I don't know. And they might be into the fellas too, but it seems like less and less reports of like the guys admitting it. That's probably safe to say.
Oh, it could be, yeah.
But not me.
How can you never hear of guys being attacked by the female Bigfoots? And
well, actually, I have a story about that. Okay, back in the day, there was this Bigfooter. He was in Carson, Washington. His name was Datus Perry. Tobe, you might know who this guy is, or have heard of Datus Perry. And he had a cabin up in the woods, and and he said every night at the cabin, he would look out at the windows and he would see this female Bigfoot outside staring at him. And one of the things that really cracked me up, he would say, I wouldn't go out there because I didn't know her intentions with me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a story up of the McKenzie Pass, a place called Horse Creek. It's a pretty active area. And there's a story about a woman getting carried away in her sleeping bag right outside of her tent at like a public campground by one. The husband gets so unnerved, obviously freaking out, that his wife's being carried away like a sack of potatoes out to the woods, that he grabbed whatever he could. It ended up being an axe. And so he was using the back end of the axe to try to get the Squatch so he would let her go. He ended up getting booked, on a charge for spousal abuse. Of course, the Bigfoot story sounded like nonsense, but there's a woman being carried away by something that had, obviously, I don't know if she was set apart from that, but, and then there's this thing about people seeing Sasquatch when they're exposing themselves, i.e. skinny dipping, urinating, going number 2. So is that, what is that about? Is that us presenting ourselves to them not knowing? Or are we in a state where we're less able to defend ourselves because our pants are down, around our ankles? What do you think, Scott?
Can the Squatch just smell it?
Yeah.
Can they have a better smelling system than we do?
Well, I'm sure they do, but yeah, that's an interesting thing. I never even thought about that. Well, speaking of smells, we all have heard the Bigfoot stories about the smells, how bad they smell. And I've smelt that myself when I had my encounter, but my encounter was with a juvenile and an adult. I always had a kind of a thought in the back of my head. Most of the, not all encounters have smells, but this here, I always thought that maybe it's juveniles that smell bad, teenage boys, and maybe that's a pheromone kind of thing that they put out when they're looking for love,
Oh, there you go.
In all the wrong places.
Oh, don't get them demonetized. Well, that what's her name? Brenda Harris, who lives in the Four Corners area, pretty well known researcher out there, had found what looked like a skunk in one of the irrigation pipes in her field, and the skunk had been removed out by something with giant hands. You could see the bloody trail, and the only thing that was taken from that skunk that was killed was its scent gland. So she was wondering if there was this kind of like feature that they could use as a kind of like a little bioweapon to ignite and smear on them periodically. But what you describe and what others describe, Nikki and Joe included, is, we've all heard that it smelled worse than worse. It smelled like death. It smelled not just skunk. So something else is happening.
Some spoilage.
Spoilage.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't. Yeah. It is definitely not a turn on for the humans, but it might very well be like the Old Spice or the Coco Chanel in the Squatch world to get that death smell. That may get them all riled up. Who knows how close Ron Moorhead actually was to like getting, more than vocalizations out in the high Sierras. It could have really, it really could have turned bad.
He might have been wearing the Old Spice,
Yeah.
They might have been like the Old Spice.
Yeah. Well, then there's the Albert Olstein story.
Yeah.
Where he was picked up in a sleeping bag and dragged off to a Bigfoot camp.
Yeah.
Now, I did see somebody here say that they had a couple of smart-ass remarks here about Bigfoot whacking and how they're going to pass on Bigfoot whacking.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, Jay.
Yeah.
Hi, Biff, bud.
Yeah.
Lester Taylor.
What about, if they do gift, which I believe they do, if they're leaving trinkets, that's kind of like a Valentine's, right? Like they're little found objects and you're gifting them back. It's kind of like a courtship. It's a, it's more than just a game, because these objects in our case are significant. Like they're related to something that you just talked about.
Right.
So if they do that, which I believe they do, then what is really happening there? What are you courting, male or female? Is this just the teenagers playing a game, or are you building a relationship unknowingly with, you know, a higher intelligence?
Oh, there we go. With all you people out there gifting, what
Right.
what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. So there's one of the things that, so I noticed there was somebody in chat earlier talking about how they think they only have 3 or 4 kids in their lifetime. I can't remember where that was. It was back here ways. Anyway, boy, that's chat's way back there. I can't find it. But anyway,
I remember seeing it. I don't know who it was though.
Yeah. I think it was Pyro talking about how they have 3 or 4, how he thinks they have 3 or 4 kids in their lifetime. So here's something that's really interesting. And I wanted to get into what you guys think about their family life, you know, how many kids and that sort of thing. And one of the things I'm going to throw at you is something that I thought about as a Native American culture anthropologist and spending a lot of time looking at pictographs. You guys are all familiar with this one, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things when I did a little dissection of this one. So this is what it looks like in real life, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I wanted to point out is it has Daddy Bigfoot, Mommy Bigfoot, and Baby Bigfoot. So,
now, Scott, why is that a mommy Bigfoot? What is it? What is it about that makes that the mommy? I don't know what that is.
Well, I think well, here's the deal with Bigfoot pictographs that I have noticed, you know, and I have seen 4 in my career, actually, you know, seen them with my own eyes, is they always depict Bigfoot as has short legs, long body, the arms out to the side like this to show the size of it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And this one in particular has the crying eyes and things. But the female one in this particular pictograph has the same proportions, but they're smaller. And that's the, you know, and right, I can't say that this is a female for sure. And the baby's got a big afro, you know, so we don't really know.
Right.
Is the one you call the mother there? Is it missing its head, or what is that?
What's that?
Is she missing her head?
Yeah.
It could be, because there's actually a kind of a ghost symbol above it.
Oh, what's that next to it right there? That bigger head?
Well, it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that. I never even thought about that. So I'm going to go.
If you look right to the left over there, I guess the left arm right there. Is that her head right there? That could be her head, or
yeah.
I don't know what that is. I mean, it's a weird.
I got one screen behind the other one, so I had to get okay, there we go, my laser pointer. Anyway, yeah. So here's an interesting thing. This has got like a Native American hunting party. This is a water spring where they were hunting deer. They found footprints. I'm not sure what this symbol is unless Bigfoot drives a Mercedes. But these here are stickmen, which means danger, you know, something bad happened here. And they got half a human body here. So if that's missing the head, I never thought about that, Joe. This is kind of a ghost Bigfoot, like a dead one.
Is that?
And I had always taken it as 4: the mom, the dad, the juvenile, and the baby up on the top.
The baby up on the top.
Yeah,
interesting.
That could be a baby. Yeah. Or it could be a ghost Bigfoot with this man down here. Did they have a little fight? You know, you don't know.
Like a fire, like a bunch of like the 3 around a fire.
Yeah. Well, actually, this is for sure a spring. I know that. I've
Yeah,
seen that
that's what it
symbol
looks
elsewhere in other places. This, Nikki, I don't know if you know this. This is what I used to do for a living, was decipher pictographs and petrographs. But what's interesting about this one is actually this symbol right here. Those are atlatls.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
And the natives in this area stopped using atlatls 2,500 years ago. So is this pictograph 2,500 years old?
It hasn't been carbon dated.
Well, you can't carbon date rock.
You can't. Okay. It hasn't
Yeah.
been rock dated.
Mhm.
So, wow. It's incredible.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. I don't know, but what that could be a baby. All right. Thanks, Nikki, for ruining my life. Anyways,
Well, let me let you tell you this. Above that spring, I see a little wiener dog.
yeah, that's
I'll
actually
see
a
that
deer.
too.
I know that one. So Bigfoot with her wiener dog. Is that their Gucci bag they put the wiener dog in? So
Right.
yeah.
So what do you think that thing is between the mom and the baby there? Like an eyelash.
The
Oh,
eyelashes.
yeah.
Yeah.
The eyelashes. I don't know what that is either.
What did the natives? What natives did this cave painting? The hairy man. Was it the
Well,
Paiute?
we no. Oh gosh, the
Where's-
name just went out of my head. Starts with a T.
The T.
Yeah.
Okay.
Telequan.
So
I don't remember.
it's south of the Paiute tribe.
But what do
I have
they
to
say
remember.
about this? Like, why is the Sasquatch even crying? What is that about?
I think it could be because I always thought it was because the dead Sasquatch up here.
Oh,
Maybe it's angry eyes because somebody chopped off the mama's head.
it's very Tammy Faye. I have
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
Very Tammy Faye.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so
it's
weird because
interesting.
of the fact that they're not drawing exactly. They're not drawing like even a seventh grader could draw better than these full-grown men. I don't understand the disconnect between drawing more accurate representations here, because you go out to,
okay. So here's the problem we have though with this, because I'm going to go back to this is what it looks like in
So
real
that's
life.
the Tule River Indian.
Thule. It's the Thule tribe.
Okay.
Thule.
Yeah. I knew it started with a T. Yeah. So it's the Thule tribe. But if my idea of that being atlatls, this will predate the Thule tribe by 1,000 years. You know, the modern Thule tribe. That would put it back into like pre, caveman type. But so that picture that we have is just, this is the original, and so I know they took a bunch of pictures of this in different lights to try to draw it out so they could see what it actually looked like, but we could be misinterpreting the whole thing, other than the hairy man. That's pretty.
Yeah, that's pretty cool out there. I like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen that before, but you pointed out the female and the juvenile over there.
Mhm.
I've never seen that before.
Right.
And the ghost looking thing.
Well,
Right.
the thing
And
next to the spring there looks like a doorway, or looks like
I was thinking it's a tombstone, but
it looks like an opening of some kind, or a tombstone. Yeah. I don't know. Didn't look like a footprint to me.
yeah, well, and some of the other renditions of this, it looks more footprinty,
Okay.
this is kind of a rough sketch of what it looks like.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
So, but I brought this up just for the fact that we're looking at a family.
Yeah,
What I think is a family.
I would agree.
yeah, I'll agree with that.
A very strange family. I mean, I don't even know if there's anything particularly, I mean, the leg portion to the body portion and the size say Bigfoot, but you know, it looks kind of altogether there's something different going on here. I mean, it's not a very accurate representation. So did they see these things, right? Like, were they in the distance and they saw the silhouette more than they actually saw these beings? It makes you wonder if they had to interpret what they look like because they were even blurry back in the 1600s. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. It's frightening that there's an out of focus monster and walking
Right.
around the forest.
I mean, maybe those lines represent pixelation, right? Like, is there a distortion that they're seeing? I mean, this is what people
Right.
describe, right? As seeing the cellophane effect. That
Mhm.
this looks like somebody who hasn't actually seen more than just the outline of one of these things.
Mhm. It's very interesting. Yeah. Well, if you look at the original one here, by the way, from here to here, from the bottom to the top, in actual real life, that is 8 feet tall.
Oh
I mean,
wow.
this is life size.
It would be interesting to know that, okay, so if this happened 1,000 years ago, what is this pictograph exactly a story? Is this a story, you know, that is been put up onto this rock, and what that story was? You know, when it was there just trying to imagine at the point when it was created, were there a bunch of kids there and an elder there drawing these, carving these, however it was done, telling a story? You know, since it's like kind of random placing
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
where things are, that was just their extra sketch, you know, of them trying
Yeah.
to do that. But it would be interesting to go through. I'm sure Kathy Strains probably peeled through a ton of stories from there trying to find that answer, I'm sure.
Mhm.
Oh,
But
she has.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know she did some extensive work, but it would be interesting to see if there was an
Mhm.
exact story that would match this. You know, I don't know if there would be
Right.
any way to find that out.
No, I don't know. I have actually found other ones, and I didn't put it on here because we weren't talking about pictographs this week.
Yeah.
But I found another one that really did have a story on it, and they had Bigfoot footprints and bears and bear prints, so they knew the difference between the two, and it's in Southern Oregon actually.
Right. I know that David Ellis of the Olympic Project has found adult male prints, what he perceives as adult male prints, a giant, footprints
Mhm.
with baby footprints inside of it, as though they're not off to the side. They're within proximity, jumping down and off,
Mhm.
off the body of the parents down into the substrate, and occasionally walking in their prints. He might have even cast a double print, which I don't think anybody really has cast a lot of double prints like that. But
Mhm.
just like understanding the behavior, like, what do you guys think as far as the behavior of the younger ones having a permission slip to run askew from where the adults are, right? Like, is the mother closer, watching at a closer, position, the father's, up on top as a kind of a, a social sniper of sorts to anything that happens? How do you think they position themselves?
I think that could be. There's a lot of I know Tom Seawood, has told stories about watchers, and other people have too. Um,
Mhm.
Hey Scott, Pappy Two Bears got an interesting look on everything. That's pretty cool.
where's that?
You see Pappy Two Bears?
Pappy Two Bears writes, oh yeah, I see what he's writing here.
This one? Rule of survival: if you don't know what you are looking at, don't get too close. And that one there, is that what you guys talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
So That's why the pictograph lacks details. It makes sense that you don't want to
Mhm.
get too close.
Right.
Mhm.
But you know, this kind of goes against the idea that they had traded on some level. I don't know about the Toolies, but the natives are saying that they're trading salmon. So in some cases down here off of
I've heard that.
near Chehalis, they're saying they're handing the salmon to the Sasquatch in broad daylight, and there's a full-on trading program going on. So apparently this tribe wasn't doing that. Otherwise they would have more accurate representations.
True. I mean, one of the things, if you look at all, you know, that you can look it up on the internet, there's like a list of Native American names, and I have interviewed probably 40 tribes myself to get their names for Bigfoot. And it's kind of interesting. Half the tribes mean, you know, benevolent brother, spirit being, friend, all that stuff. And the other half is like cannibal, monster. So I think it depends on the relationship the tribe had, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I am desperately looking on my computer here for, I actually have cast 9-inch footprints next to 16-inch footprints. Looking for the photos. Looking for my photo of that.
Gary Spikes Jr. from P3 Productions. Thank you, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, well, dang it, I can't find it. I did. Okay, so this here is the two Bigfoot that I saw with my own eyes. I took this picture. And where they were standing, I had 9-inch footprints with 16-inch footprints next to them.
That wasn't taken too long ago, was it, Scott? That was
it was about 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, where was that at?
This is in Eastern Oregon in the Blue Mountains. About 15 miles south of Deduck Springs. Go figure.
Oh, there
you know. Oh, there he goes. Yeah.
Where they go?
But where they were standing, there was 9-inch prints and 16-inch prints. I got casts of both of those. And but here's the deal: when I saw these two, I saw them because I smelt them first. So there's that. That's that teenager there, and that's my guess. And then I heard a whistle off in the woods, and they turned and headed towards that whistle. So I think possibly the female juvenile right here. Mm-hmm. And then the whistle was probably the male that was watching somewhere else. So
how far off are you at a distance, Scott, when you took that?
200 feet. I was 200 feet.
But you were up above them, right? You were looking down at them, right?
Yeah, it's down a steep hill.
Right.
Yeah, it was way down a steep hill that I saw him. The only reason I saw him was because the juvenile was moving. It was rocking back and forth looking at me.
Do you think there was a male nearby?
A what?
A male.
Yeah, I think that's what whistled off in the woods somewhere. I never did find any other footprints, but that whistle that was off in the woods, I think that's when they turned and walked away. I mean, I only saw them for like 3 seconds. I got one picture. Thank goodness I had my camera on and in my hand, you know, when I saw it.
I was just lucky.
Yeah. Well, that, and we had 5 reports in that area in the same week, but so that's why I was there. And
Lester said it looks like a brown Shrek.
Oh yeah, brown Shrek. Yeah.
He had very round facial features.
Yeah. Yeah.
The juvenile on that just looks, that's just an awesome thing. You see everything in the juvenile.
Right. Got the little button nose, the flat mouth, the big brow ridge, the cone head. He's got all the features. So the adult standing behind it had to been bent over looking up at me. So it had its head tilted all the way back. It was probably bent over, because where the juvenile was, we found his footprints, and I shot a laser through trees. I figured out he was 6 foot tall. From where my camera was and where he was standing, where his footprints were, shot a laser down there, figured out about how tall he was. He was 6 foot. So, but so that was what I'm guessing to be a female and a juvenile. So with all this, what? Go ahead.
Scott, what do you think about family size and how many kids do they have a year, or take them a year, 9 months, or years to have a baby, or what's your opinion on that?
Well, that's what I wanted to talk. What you guys think about? I mean, do they have these these huge groups? Oh, look, I even have a graphic for it. So, do they have these huge groups?
Looks real to me.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think they're very. I don't think they're. I think rarely they're alone. Do you guys agree with that?
Oh yeah,
Well,
I think
rarely.
Yeah,
I think there is rogue Bigfoots. I think they're mostly male, though. I don't know why I think that, but I think there's some like male Bigfoots that get to like the teenage years on up to adult. Like the dad just kicks them out and they're roaming the woods until they find, get old enough to breed or whatever. But I think there is rogue ones out walking around. I don't think they're always packs or herds or whatever you want to call them. I think there is some walking around by himself.
Single, ready to mingle. There, Cowboy Squatch.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So many questions, right? So many questions. We don't know if they're monogamous. We want to assume that since there have been seen male, female, and some kind of juvenile, that they are monogamous and stay together and probably for life. But we don't know that dynamic, does he have multiple females in different areas? Does he go from one to a completely another area? How far does he travel? We don't know. We don't know that. But it's definitely, if that were the case, there would probably be more of them because they would have more females, right?
Right. If they had like a harem.
So
like, yeah. So here's an interesting thing. I'm going to steal this from Dr. Jeff Meldrum. I had to sit through his talk about how big monkey balls are.
Oh,
he's got to talk about.
Got a new PowerPoint ready to go for the adults.
Yeah. Oh, he's got a PowerPoint. Yeah, he's got pictures and everything. So I guess there's some types of primates out there, apes, who have these huge monkey balls, and that's to attract harems, like multiple women into their groups. If you got the biggest balls, you're the man. So
so that's where that comes from. He's got big balls. He must be a man.
Yeah, exactly.
There, Scott.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, it's fun watching Dr. Jeff Meldrum talk about this. It's just hilarious, actually. But anyway, and he's got his big PowerPoint up and doing everything. But what he was pointing out was very interesting, is because we don't get stories of people seeing, huge genitals on Bigfoot, which means the primates, apes, and humans who live more of a monogamous small family group don't need those to attract large herons. So the thought was that they're probably small family groups.
Right.
I like Janice Daughtry's comment there. She states, don't you think that their gestational period, if their gestational period is 9 months, that there would be more of them? And I find that a really great question because, okay, if we're thinking that they are human beings, right? Their bone structure is going to have a certain amount pressure that they can handle before they crack. So this is my idea, is that they are not like human beings, that their bone density is far greater than ours, making them something else, a homo something. But that would also increase their gestational period. Okay, that means they would probably into maybe the 16, 18 months. Now we know elephants are pregnant for almost 24 months, right?
Yep.
Very long time, because their bone density is greater, and they need that longer time to develop. So I think that they are longer gestational, and probably are breaks in between that, that they probably can't get pregnant. That way, now it seems more likely that we're seeing this population that is just on the cusp of decrease or the cusp of going up, one or the other, and they're just staying, they're staying in this one spot where they're getting seen, but not by everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So Texas Jack says even Neanderthals shorter than us have greater bone density. That's very true. They do. In case you didn't know, Neanderthals are still alive, by the way. Did you know that, Joe?
That's what my wife tells me all the time.
Mine too. Actually, 5% of my DNA is Neanderthal. I had my DNA done. Being Acadian French, I'm from that region, or my ancestors are from that region. So
one of the things I wanted to ask Nikki is oftentimes the reports that I've heard from people talk about this lack of bone structure in the sighting. They say oftentimes it moved as though it had no bones, like it was jelly or water, almost lack of bones, right? Like there's this real fluidity to the movement that is a different kind of physiology. So I don't know what to think about that, because I agree with you. Just given the physical size, one would appreciate that the density would be there, but yet the witnesses say that they glide like they're on roller skates, or they float like they're on a clothesline through the wood, or they see them snake through the brush as though they are just kind of like octopus or jelly or something like that. So that part makes me wonder what we're dealing with here, because it is so different than primates. I mean, maybe when you see a primate brachiating through the forest floor, you get that kind of, discipline and that beauty of the kind of the ballet of how they move. But there seems to be something else going on with what witnesses are describing on what is comprised of what we really understand as physiology. So I don't know. I mean, maybe they don't give birth in a traditional way. Maybe they give birth in a way that is something so different than what we understand a regular animal or person or being or whatever gives birth like. It's something to at least consider.
Well, it's to be considered if you follow that the other extreme of allowing the paranormal or the other aspects. But if you're looking at it primarily from a flesh and blood line, I can't see that. I can't see that happening, especially if we are making the assumption they pee and they poo and they eat. They have to have a same kind of a structure, digestive structure that we have.
But that
Now,
is kind of true, Nikki. But then if we have the given opportunity that we look at something like a cuttlefish, for example, that can become the surface of the boat at a blink of an eye by camouflaging itself, or become polka dots, whatever it needs to do. We understand these creatures very little, just based upon the kind of physical remnants that we have of them. Is basically just like 10% of a puzzle piece, and we have this other 90% that we don't get. That's the complex part. Is this just a form of biology we don't understand yet.
Could be. Could be.
I've got a question for Octopus with no friends. Has he ever seen one? I see his question up there. It says, I think our eyes can't make sense of how fast and fluid they move. I was just wondering if he had seen one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Me
Throw that in the chat. And I have something to go along with that. If you ever looked at really critical breakdowns of, like, say, the Patterson-Gimlin film and how they walk, this compliant gait, as they say. I have taken the Patterson-Gimlin film myself and threw it in my editor and drew a line for the first frame and I put a dot where the shoulder was, and the last frame I put a dot where the shoulder was, and I drew a line between them, and then I played the video. Its shoulder never went above or below that line. They do not vault over their hips like we do, so they don't bounce when they walk.
Mhm.
And it's because of the way they walk, it's so smooth. They do have that appearance of gliding or on roller skates. It's just because they walk with their knees bent and their foot bends in the middle, and you can see the bottom of the foot every time it comes up. It's that compliant gait that keeps them from bouncing when they walk, because it looks like they're stepping over like tall grass all the time when they're walking, every step they make, even if they're not in tall grass, which causes that fluidity. And plus, if they do have, greater bone density, there's that. But they're also extremely strong, and, because I've seen some huge tree breaks. I have seen twice now, like 3-inch fir trees with root balls on them woven into structures, where they just pulled this fir tree out of the ground, roots and all,
Okay,
so they're they're extremely strong.
Mhm.
So it's less effort for them to move because of their strength. So they would have a really fluid motion. If you ever watched, like, monkeys swinging through trees, how fluid they are, effortless, no effort whatsoever. So and we got to remember, we're seeing them in their home. They're used to this, so it's amazing to me. I think a lot of the fluid stuff and the motion, how they weave through trees, is just naturally them being them and in the environment they grew up in.
But like, Scott, when I talked to you last week and you told me that you're looking into the culture of Sasquatch, like, if we're looking into something that has a family group, male, female, let's just say a mate or a wife, that's just such a game changer, right? And how do we get there? I mean, you kind of go with language, right? Because if they do have language, then they do have these groups. They seem to have culture. Because there is no language, according to Scott Nelson, that exists that does not have culture. It doesn't happen. You have one, you have the other. So if you have culture, then you have all the consequences of culture, including what you described, which I think is endlessly fascinating. That they have small testicles and a small knob because they have one mate. They don't need to showcase it all over the place, right? So it's just a fascinating thing to think of.
Well, yeah, and well, I can only go by my experience, and a lot of people who, I get tons of reports. That's the reason we do these sportsman shows I'm doing right now. I got probably 70 reports last weekend from people, and you never hear people say, well, I saw 15 Bigfoot together, I saw one, or I saw an adult and a juvenile together, so
Right.
I think just by that alone, tends to make me think they have small family groups. Now, how often do they have babies? There's the problem, but what Nikki said, because of their size and stuff like that, they may only have a child way back in the beginning of the chat, 3 or 4 in their lifetime. And that would keep their population just right.
Right.
for where they live.
Mhm. Now, the nest that they found out here in the Olympics, I'd have to refer to Shane Corson and
Mhm.
Randall's, is that these seem like they were nests built for adult males or adults. They weren't
Mhm.
small in nature, right? So they didn't seem to be, maybe they fit a couple in there, but it seemed to kind of fit just one situation. So do the younger ones even need a nest? I would imagine you probably have to research what great apes do as far as raising gorillas in nests.
Right. Well, and great apes, they make nests just to sit on.
Mhm.
And they'll make a couple a day if they need to,
Right.
which gets me back to
Davy Jones Locker says, you think somebody would believe if a Bigfoot talked to you? You'd be hard pressed to find something like that. I mean, there's people out there that would. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of people going out there say you're full of BS.
that
And hi,
Bigfoot.
Super Popper.
Okay. You guys talk amongst yourself. I'm looking for a photo. Gosh, it's got to be right here
What do you?
somewhere.
Let me ask us, the two of you down here,
Mhm.
because you're in my Brady Bunch view here, so you're down here. So, like, we would find a bunch of these weavings. Witnesses talk about seeing, organic weaving, usually on vine maple. Maple trees seem to be a big one. Who do you think is leaving those? If it's not humans, is it the older ones? Is it the younger one? What kind of behavior does that and
Oh,
indicative of
I
what
think
kind of
that's like
behavior is that?
juvenile behavior.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
really think.
I agree with you, Nick. Like they're playing with something like braiding hair or something like that. But like I've said before, that I don't know if I believe all that stuff. I mean, it's just like the manes on horses being braided and stuff. I don't, like I said, I've been around horses most of my life. And I ain't gonna say all my life because I'm 1 year old. Didn't have a horse, so I'm gonna say all my life. But I've seen horses' tails and manes look like somebody braided them up, and they get caught in the fence or the barbed wire fence or briars or the wind or something like that. But as far as vines, I don't know about that. I'd have to,
It's
see a
the little
Bigfoot doing
people.
that. The little people, would you say?
It's the little people of the forest making those.
Yeah, that's it.
Which,
We
right? I mean,
don't know.
the little people, right, Scott? The natives talk about them just as much as Bigfoot, but it's not an
Oh,
oral
absolutely.
tradition that comes out as much.
Mhm.
Right. Very true. In fact, it's kind of interesting. We do a sportsman show down in Anderson, California. It's right next to Mount Shasta, and it'll be funny when we're sitting there for that 3 days, 10 hours a day, having people come through and talk to us and stuff. We literally get more little people stories than I do Bigfoot stories from Mount Shasta.
Wow.
Interesting.
Well, you
And do
hear
they must
all
have
kinds
family
of
groups too.
different names, right? You have pudgewudgies and
Mhm.
kinds of different characters out there in the forest.
Thank you,
But were
Desert
they
Rat
all Bigfoot?
Gardener.
Oh,
That's a new one. I've never seen Desert Rat Gardener before.
that's EC. She is hopefully my new partner up in the Sacramento Mountains. She lives up
Oh,
there. And earlier when I was describing that Sasquatch running across the road, it was her sighting of
cool.
the backside of a Sasquatch.
She's smart. She says we need more people like Cowboy Nikki.
I agree. Give me a fist. Oh, fist pump.
Well, but you skipped the part. She said we need more
Well, I do
BS.
Oh, she's from El Paso too.
Mhm.
No, she's about 2 hours north of me.
Oh,
She's in the
it
mountains.
says she's close
Yeah,
to
she's
Cloudcroft.
Yep. Yeah, she's right there in Cloudcroft.
Oh, I think I met her when I was in Cloudcroft. Now that I think
No,
about it,
I was just going to ask you that, Scott. Did you meet her up there?
yeah, I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does she have a YouTube channel? She walk around with a video camera in her
Desert
hand all the
Rat
time? Yep,
Desert.
I did meet her. Yeah.
El
So I
Paso,
cannot.
but
Once again, I can't find the picture I'm looking for, but we literally, when you were talking about nests and stuff, it kind of triggered my brain. It's been 3 years ago, up in a mountain lake on near Crater Lake, Oregon, that area, Diamond Lake. Actually, a place called Wendigo Pass, believe it or not. We
That's not
found,
true.
yeah, we found it was a bunch of fir boughs laid on the ground, like a little nest to sit on. And we found 13-inch footprints, 6-inch footprints, and 2-inch footprints all around it, down by the edge of the
2-inch?
lake. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
2-inch footprints, little tiny ones. It's like,
dang.
it's like, Mom,
Uh-oh.
yeah, just like,
My cosmic kitty came.
yeah, and it's floating in space too. That's crazy. Okay.
That's
He's
awesome.
floating there.
I love that. That's the best part of tonight, right there.
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Hey, Greg House.
Yes.
Mm.
So that gave me another thought. I mean, did they have 2 kids?
Well,
A
so
13-inch print, a 6-inch print, and a 2-inch print.
this comment
That's-
here by Pyromedic that says
small.
the braids that are longer than length in the hair that makes Pyromedic say, pulled out and braided in, or knotted and pulled loose or hanging. And so what's interesting about that comment is going back to the braiding, even if you guys don't want to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it.
Oh, go ahead.
So this idea of braiding, right? Like part of what I heard in Scott, Go Tell Me to Pound Sand, is that Native American females, when they had their hair braided in knots, kind of pigtail style, right? Native braids, that meant that they had a mate, that they were chosen by someone else in the tribe.
Mhm.
And so is this braiding effect, basically an invitation of sorts to say, hey, you've been chosen. I've given you a braided knot. I braided your horse. This is what Connie Gwinnett said as a, I don't know if Connie Gwinnett still stands by her story, but she claims that her horses were getting assaulted by a Sasquatch, right? And that the braided mane was indicative that that horse had been picked as its mate. So there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, in fact, I remember her in that story. Hey, Joe, I think isn't there a whole horse braided thing museum in
Pull up
Nebraska?
what I just sent you. Yeah. Pull up what I just sent you right now. That
Yes, I've been there.
Just
And she's got the United States flag that's ripped all to shreds and it's been braided. And I just think it's just high winds. But she thinks Bigfoot did it. Well, that's her opinion. She can think whatever she wants.
Is that Connie
Can you see that?
you're talking about?
At the Hastings Museum?
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Do you see that picture I put down there, Scott?
I don't see a
down
picture.
where? Where did you
down
send it?
below? I'm sharing. Down, look down below, and you should see a.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I think so.
That's at that museum. That you're talking
That's
about.
at that museum. That's that American flag. Yeah.
Yeah, the
yeah.
the horse hair, and then the American flag, and she's states that it's the same. That Bigfoot was the culprit of that, but many people go and say that, well, that if you leave a flag up there long enough, they rip and the wind twirls them around into knots.
I have a whole video of me just spending, I don't know, about an hour in that museum. If you want to go back and look at it, it shows everything she got there. She got some cool things in there. Some really cool people have visited to that place.
Oh, interesting.
But some of that stuff is just way out.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting is her obsession to show this evidence, right? Like knowing that she's going to get pushed back and ridicule. The people that I've met along the way, including myself, they don't care about the pushback anymore because they've experienced it to a degree that the pushback is just kind of like this thing that you have to ignore and get through. The phenomena itself, though, being presented these beautiful exchanges, these woven, like I said, vine maple is a big one, living trees, but also ropes and little pieces like now this is probably something that was you know, I don't know, maybe a man did this and then hung it up in the tree, but this is a good example of the kind of stuff that would be set out in a gifting exchange area here. And we can't call that wind because it denies the intellect behind it.
To me, that looks like some kind of a puzzle.
Yeah, right. So, but this is the kind of complexity that we're getting to, is just like something is trying to tell us. So if this isn't a hoax, then we have something that is so neat, so different, so magical, so cool that
and in the Southwest, if we see stuff like that, we don't touch it because it's witchery. Over here, yeah, you don't touch that stuff. It's witchery.
So, Tobe, have you seen the Blair Witch Project? No.
You don't want to see my house.
Okay. No, actually, what you're holding up there, we actually found the same thing last year. Down by Crater Lake. Yeah, they were
bound together.
Fir boughs in circles like that. Yeah.
That's interesting, though.
But looking at that American flag, I don't see wind there. And if you could bring that photo back, I think if we were to zoom in, you could see what looks like careful overlapping. I've seen this braid work before, and it's, you know, it's certainly, it takes a thumb to pull it off.
Hold on, I gotta find where it's at again. Somewhere from my last show. There you go.
I don't know about the horse maid because that does look like that witch knot from the barbed wire. But the flag, you know, the bottom half of it there looks as though there's been some crafting going on. I mean, you'd have to get closer to
braiding.
Look at
Yeah, that one looks braiding. That was just one of the. There's a bunch of different photos, but I just picked two. So some looks like it's just wound, like twisted, and some look braided. Like that part right there looks pretty good.
But maybe she did it. Maybe maybe she wants evidence so bad that she fabricates it herself. I mean, you know that happens. It's part of this deal, right? People fabricate stuff.
I don't know. It's a cool idea, though. I mean,
and just my opinion, I think it's the wind. Just my opinion. When I went, and she's got it in a cool frame. The whole flag in a cool frame. It's the main thing. The tails. She's got, I don't know, 5, 10 of those different ones hanging up in there.
Yeah, there was a bunch. I should have taken that one too, but I didn't.
Now, down in our research area, they had taken a piece of, now when I say they, I don't know who, but someone took a piece of paracord and they gutted it. They pulled the strands out, you know, I think they call it a parachute cord, like for camping.
Yeah.
And it has the inner, they pull the inner core out of the sheath. And so you have the outer core here. And whatever did this took the inner core and wove it to the outer core, just like that flag, and did about a 14-inch strand of weaving and then threw it at us while we slept. So we woke up to it laying between us. And we know that we didn't weave any paracord. So someone had the mind to sneak up on 2 guys with guns and throw a piece of paracord at us, which, you know, it reminds me of that flag just based upon the fact that they're using what they have around them. They don't make fabric, and they're utilizing found pieces to do stuff like this.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have never. Well, I found those woven, or limb circles. Those are kind of interesting. Um, when you said something snuck up on you at night, remember I said I found a 3-inch fir tree with a root ball on it woven into a structure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only other time I saw that root ball pulled up is one night we had hiked way into the mountains. We were probably 7 miles off trail in the middle of nowhere, and me and my buddy, and we had set up 2 little pump tents. And in the night, something laid a 3-inch fir tree with root ball in it between our
Mm-hmm.
tents. So
Yeah.
that was a little spooky, actually.
Like I said, if you want to see the whole inside, I asked her if I could video in there, and she said more. I was more than welcome. I showed the flag, I showed the mains, and everything else she's got in that video. I think I was in there 30, 45 minutes. If you want to go see what's in that museum, go back and look it up. And my channel at the videos, and you can see the whole thing.
Yeah, it's in Hastings, Nebraska. Actually.
Hastings, Nebraska. And very sweet lady. She's a very nice lady.
Mm.
Donald's got a good one here.
Romancing the Horse. That sounds like a Harlequin romance worth reading.
Yeah, there we go.
I think my wife said that.
Only if it has ivermectin in its system, then I'll think of it.
Yeah, we'll be talking about the horse.
Right.
Never mind. I better shut up.
That's a horse. That's a horse Joe's going to bet on.
So yeah.
But we are talking about Bigfoot love, though.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So there's one other topic I wanted to talk about really quick, and we're like kind of past time, if you guys don't mind for a second here.
I don't know.
Okay, what happened to my? Oh, there we go. What I was thinking is, now if something we mentioned earlier, we're talking about what Joe had mentioned, that maybe after a certain age, they throw the kids out on their own. They have to go find their own little family group. So is that why we hear howling and whooping in the woods at night?
Could be. Like the rogue Bigfoot looking for another group or a mate, or, maybe lonely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That one we heard down Booger's place was. Like
some of those really sad howls, could be deaths. They could be mourning or something.
Yeah, could be.
It could be.
Mm-hmm.
I've got another question about these AI things.
Okay.
What do y'all think? Now, I've done several of these AI things. Every time I put in a Bigfoot thing, they always come back with a gorilla-looking nose. Do you think Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it, all of them have gorilla-looking noses, or like they have human noses?
Hooded, yeah, human.
I
think humanish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a guy on Facebook.
If you look at all the AI things, all of them have the gorilla nose.
If you go to there's a guy on Facebook, Joe. Go. His name is the Face of Sasquatch. It's a Facebook group. This guy, whatever he's plugging in, it's amazing. Like he's not getting the gorilla look. He's got indigenous look to these Sasquatch, and the poses that they're in is so unique, and the coloration. So the Face of Sasquatch, if anybody's still on here listening, that guy, he's got it going on. It's like fine art.
Yep.
I will play a sound here that will be a little bit contrary to some of the talking points here as far as family groups. One of the more miraculous things is, of course, Bigfoot language. And David Ellis was saying when they're in a family group, that's when they will have language. And so these are called morpheme streams, which is the components of a conversation happening. And so one of the theories is in order to get this, you have to be in a place where they're comfortable in a family group, i.e. the Sierra Sounds. And so this is what the long-term witnesses told me that would happen, is that they would eventually hear them muttering things just outside of their property. Well, we caught some of this, and I'll go ahead and play some of it for you here. So this seems like an older one. It sounds like an adult male communicating with a smaller one. You definitely hear some form of language happening here. And so I'm going to play this on my speakerphone. This would probably be within 100 yards of the back door in the apple orchard behind the house. So let me play the
Is this from
samurai.
behind your house?
This is some of the recordings, yeah, from my book. So I'll play this sound here. You guys tell me what you hear. And there's this coup at the end. So I mean, all you can do is just, imagine this conversation happening between. It sounds like a human conversation to a degree between something that sounds bigger and smaller. So we don't know what the relationship was of that sound. It doesn't sound human. It doesn't sound like a misunderstanding of like the farm next door to us. So I don't know. I mean, maybe there's credence to what Dave Ellis said.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was very Sierra sounding ish at the end there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'm reading chat.
Okay.
So the first howl was a coyote.
The first howl was a coyote.
Yeah, that was
Sasquatch seekers. Yeah, desert rat. Send them to Nikki or Scott them pictures.
Yep.
I don't see Jonathan Ratcliffe on here,
I haven't seen him tonight either.
but he told me about this stuff right here, and I just wanted to know I got some.
That's good stuff. It's hard
You
to
got
find.
some of that. I want to get some before my next trip.
This one right here is peppermint. This is peppermint, and then I got one. Yeah, pink grapefruit.
Nice.
Oh my god! Did you
Wow,
see
you're
that,
lucky.
EC? They're gonna set me up with oxygen next time I go up there. We could do longer walks.
That's what I got, because you know how heavy I breathe when I go up a hill, and I also got the free boost hoodie, toboggan.
Ooh,
30
that
bucks
mountain
for
we
all three of
climbed
those.
is 8,600 feet is about where we were hiking. That's a
Kevin Harker, you missed everything. He said, "Hello, what have I missed?" I said, "You missed everything, Kevin."
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just about done.
Yeah.
That's a Mr. Lee thing. You missed everything.
I'm loading a sound that I captured that sounded, that first part of yours, Tobe. So, what do you think? Now, that was just one sound that we recorded that was just repeated.
Well, the interesting thing about that, too, is that you guys know this, that if you put the coyote howl on spectrogram, it stair steps up vertically. Sasquatch vocals don't do that. They stay at a low hertz level, and they go horizontal in a chunk. And so there's meat to them. They don't have the harmonics that a coyote does. So you can rule out coyote real quick. You can rule out human real quick, because we stair step as well. These vocals are anomalous for the fact that they hang out in this low frequency, this low hertz level, and they just kind of look like a tic-tac shape, like a meaty horizontal package.
Right. We heard something Saturday night down at Fairfield Lake, which my video's coming up about it, that me and my wife or shall I say my wife and I, she's listening in the other room.
You're gonna need that oxygen soon.
We heard some stuff that I think that we were really, really close to a Bigfoot. We heard two real low, I'm not going to say moans, but kind of a moanish howl thing, two of them. And then the coyotes started busting out. And then they stopped, and we heard nothing the rest of the night. And it was creepy as hell because the fog had rolled in. And I had the night vision out. And I want to tell you something, night vision and fog make some creepy video.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
You might see little ghosts flying across the screen, and but just gotta go watch the video. That's the part 3 of my Fairfield Lake one.
Okay, cool.
But it's really cool. Like I said,
So-
I think we were really close that night.
Yeah, and and another thing about the sounds too. I want to get back to that. I don't know. It's a couple years ago we did a video. I might have to go back and look, but it's kind of funny. My wife has a degree in music, and she's a vocal teacher, you know, and she sings opera and that sort of stuff. We were actually visiting her college professor who has a doctorate in choir and vocal singing, and I played him Bigfoot sounds, and it shocked him to death. And we actually got him on one of our videos to talk about the sounds he was hearing. Now, this guy's a vocal expert in tones and stuff. The thing that shocked him the most when he heard it, he said, "Wait a minute, that's 3 octaves. Humans can only do 2."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he said, "Whatever made this sound has 3 vocal folds in there instead of 2. We only have 2." So, yeah, he said, so if we were trying to mimic Bigfoot sounds, we're not even coming close.
Well, because if they have these air sacs, right? Like this is what some of the witnesses say when they've seen him vocalize, is that they see the neck expand like almost like a frog's throat. And that one of the theories is on the pant, which means that they can speak on the inhale. That would give them the leverage to do all sorts of things, including, you know, maybe 4 octaves of vocals, like the Tibetan throat singers could, or something like that. So there's a different kind of physiology here that we're not appreciating out of just primates. There's something else happening here that we're not getting off of the great apes or us.
Yes, Pat, Blue-Eyed Northern. What we heard at Flat Rocks, I believe, was a Bigfoot. I don't know if any human can make a sound that lasts that long, that gutturally, what do you call it, sound that we heard. It just seemed like it went forever and ever and ever. It wouldn't shut up. We was all asleep, and April, my wife, is the one that heard it. She woke me up, and then Pat woke Joe Parker up, and we're all sitting there. By this time, the thing's still going on. After all that, it's still going on. I think it came about, I'm going to say maybe 100 yards, 150 yards from us, down this little creek down below us. And it was something like we never heard. And it made April a believer that night from that howl. It was so creepy and so loud. It came from a long ways away, but it sounded like it was just right there on our tent, you know.
Right. But did you feel like it was looking for love?
Well, we did have 2 women with us. So.
There you go. Yeah. So we're about a half an hour over. So
I had fun though.
Okay, so in conclusion, I personally think, now this is my conclusion, that a lot of the sounds we hear are them looking for love or trying to find the rest of their group, kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I kind of have a tendency to think they're small family groups, just from pictographs.
Yeah, I don't think there's like a pack of Bigfoot roaming around. Maybe 3 or 4, maybe, you know, male and female, a couple of juveniles, but I don't think there's 10, 20, and like horses, you know, have a pack.
Or harem.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts, Mr. Tobe?
You know, I like the idea of a Sasquatch harem. It would make a great up all night sci-fi movie to watch, but I'm rooting for Sasquatch harems existing. That's
Okay.
my takeaway tonight. Is I hope that there's something like that happening.
All right. Okay, wrap us up, Nikki.
Wrap us up. I wanna set this place on fire. How about this one?
There we go.
It didn't work. It didn't work. My background didn't work that time.
Oh no.
Nope, didn't work that time. Sometimes it does.
It's
Maybe
Inferno. Burn, baby, burn.
I know. Look at that. It won't restart. It's supposed to restart, but I'm still learning this stuff. See, it's not working.
That's why I got this back here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get all technical, and
See,
I
mine
still have to learn it all.
All I gotta do is
real
hang this up.
simple.
Yeah, it's there. Scott's got it. I don't know. I'm not technology savvy at all.
You know, it's great to speculate about all these things on Bigfoot. I love it. It's my jam. But there are just so many questions that lead to more questions and more questions, and will keep us going for a long time. We may repeat a lot of stuff, but some new stuff will always come up, whether it be their parenting roles, teaching, how are they learning, how, do they have close-knit families? Do they have extended families? Do they communicate that way? Do they visit their relatives? There's so many things that we want to compare them to us. And I don't know if we'll ever find those answers.
I think that's a mistake.
Yeah.
I don't think we should compare them to us.
Right.
No,
That's what I'm saying. So many people want to compare them to us.
exactly.
But we don't have those answers. We don't. And we just go one step at a time. One step at a time. Right?
Okay.
I think I'm close.
Okay.
I think I'm close to seeing one.
Is that a text you got?
Yes.
Okay. We just got a text that said Tobe needs to get off the air. Okay.
Sorry, guys. I got another appointment. But I did appreciate all the Sasquatch love.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Next time, big balls in the woods.
All right. There we go. All right.
I'm going to hold you to that, Joe.
We'll see you next month. All right.
Thank you all. Let's do